Hey everybody, on this Midnight Garage, I'm going to show you how to rebuild a Dodge truck box using aftermarket parts. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Midnight Paint and Body channel, where I promise I will never refer to cars as spicy or use stupid made up names for car parts. But if you ever hear me say, if I don't get this job done by the end of the week, I'm going to lose the shop, well, there could actually be a little truth to that one, because self-employed body man. So what we're working on today, another rusty Dodge truck. This one is an 06, I believe, mega cab style, short bed. So what I'm going to be showing you, what we're going to be doing here is completely rebuilding this box. So bedsides, inner wheelhouses, tailgate, and then we're going to paint it, put it back. I'm using all aftermarket parts. Now in this case, customer is doing the whole truck, but he's just kind of breaking it up a little bit because, you know, there's a lot of cost involved in doing this stuff. As of late, now we'll unbox everything a little later and I'll show you. You can see that big mess. My shop is a disaster. I've been crazy busy. But there's all the parts for it there. Now, if you're looking at doing one of these trucks, I've done similar videos. I've done 1,000 of these Dodge trucks. Unfortunately, these panels, now if this were an 8-foot bed, these aftermarket panels around about 800 bucks a piece. 6-foot bed, around about 1,600 a piece. OEM, they're around 2,200 a piece. So prices have gotten ridiculous. Yes, you pay double to get 1.5 feet less. Makes no sense. So, as you can see, this one's got the old bed liner on the exterior, which, you know, bed liner for lining beds. But whatever, I probably kept this old truck looking okay for a long time, to be honest, because you don't see how rusty it is, but I mean, there's nothing left in the bottom of this truck. The fellow that owns it has owned it since new, obviously living in the days of $100,000 trucks. You know, it makes sense to keep these ones alive and spend a little money on them. So, as you can see, peel back the wrapper a little bit. So when you can see right through, obviously you need the inner wheelhouses, but typically by the time you see these rusted through, they pretty much always need the wheelhouse. So I'll show you all those parts in a few minutes. I think first off, I'm just going to get this box off the truck, then I can move the cab outside, have some more room. Probably tidy up a little bit because, yeah, I mean, everything's a disaster. But then we'll bring you guys back in for a look. Ground strap. All right, so you've just witnessed my patented one-man bed removal once again. I say it all the time, this works for me. I'm just one guy working alone, so there are better ways, I'm sure, for lifting boxes off. But yeah, and I think I said in the last video, I've done this 10,000 times, and I know one day it's going to end in disaster, but so far so good. And I know if I'm going to drop a box, it won't be one like this. It'll be one that's freshly painted going back on, because that's the way things go. So anyway, I'm going to move some stuff around, clean up a little bit, and we'll get started on this thing. Alright, so the box is off the truck. I've done a little reorganizing in the shop. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go around the perimeter of this box side. Now I have done videos on these before, but I figured I'll show you guys again in case you didn't see the past ones. So you can see, if you can see in the camera, where the spot welds are around these flanges. So all the way down here, all the way down this one, and then down the front here as well. You can probably see those ones a little better. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a drill. There are spot weld cutters for these. I say this every time, but I just use a big drill bit. I'm going to go around the center punch and just mark those. And I just take my drill and I kind of drill about halfway through. You don't want to drill all the way through because you don't want a hole in the backside panel that we're going to be welding the new panel to. So I just drill them about halfway. And then I'll go around with my air chisel and kind of finish them off with that. So I'm going to start going around hitting those with a center punch and just start doing some drilling, and then we'll come back. So there's what I mean when I say I drill about halfway. If you look closely in there, you can kind of see where the two pieces of metal are together. But so most of that spot weld is out now. Once I get underneath there with an air chisel, or you can do it with a hammer and chisel, that'll all come apart. So I just have a couple of hundred more to do, and then we'll peel this bedside off. Okay, so you just saw me going around with a zip cut, just buzzing off the excess of the bedside. Now all this inside flange, they've already drilled these, but now I can just get in there quickly with the air chisel. Wow, I was having a brain fart there for a second. And peel off all the rest of that, all around the edges. This front lip as well. Couple spot welds there. I just cut around those bolts because they're all covered in that stupid bed liner. So I'm gonna have to probably burn it off with a torch or something and get a wrench on there to get that nut off. And then the new wheelhouses, you can see there's nothing left of them. So before I started here, I actually unwrapped some of the new parts. So new tailgate, still one box side in the box there. So this will be the passenger box side. And then here are those wheel houses that rust out. So this one is what side? Huh, left hand. Okay, that's the right hand. So this is the bit that always rusts out on these. So that's just this piece here. So we'll be separating these spot welds along there and then welding back to that flange. Something I was going to mention too, these trucks are always glued on top. So if you're struggling to get them off on the top side, it's just that glue. I don't typically re-glue them. I just find as long as that's nice and flat up there, I just put the new bedside on and weld them on. Never had a problem doing them that way. So I'm going to finish cleaning all this up, and then we'll what I'm going to do is pressure wash and treat the inside of this inner bedside before we weld a new outer to it. So bring you guys back for another look when I get a little closer to that. All right, so there's that all coated with some POR 15. If you're not familiar with that stuff, it's a really good quality rust paint. POR actually stands for paint over rust. So, is that restoration quality? Of course not. But it seals it up nice. Now, you look at how rusty that was in there, you know, all the water and dirt and everything gets up in here. The rust being that thick, it soaks up the water, it stays wet, it just continues to get worse. If you can seal it up like that, you know, the water is just going to rinse off it. It's not going to, you know, it's going to make it last longer, is what I'm saying. It's not an absolutely perfect fix, but it definitely doesn't hurt. It's much better than doing nothing. So I'm going to let that cure up. I actually have some sandblasting to do outside. So I'm going to go do that before I lose the light. And then it'll probably be tomorrow when we get back on this. We'll get that inner panel welded on and get that bedside prepped up to go on as well. Okay, so back on the Dodge box this morning. So what I'm going to do first thing is prep up these welding surfaces for welding new panels to. First off, it'll be this one because we're going to be putting the wheelhouse on. And then we've got all of these surfaces all the way around where the new panel is going to fit up against, where we're going to be plug welding to. This one as well. So I'm going to get those all ground smooth, get some weld through primer on them. So I've got all my surfaces prepped, some weld through primer put on them, so that just gives you a little something in between once you sandwich those metals together and weld them, so that there is some protection in there. So I've gone around all of the surfaces that are going to be welded to. For now, we're just going to start with this inner panel. I've gone ahead and drilled some holes around the perimeter of it for plug welds. So we're just going to line this guy up, put it in place with some clamps, and then weld it on. welded on. As you can see, they're a really awkward position to get up in there with the welder. But you can see she's all welded solid. So I'm gonna take some more of that rust paint like I did on the inside. I'm gonna coat this new piece and inside to make sure all those welds are coated. While that dries, I've got something to work on for a little bit at the other end of the shop. And I'll come back over here, we'll prep up this box side and get it in place. Piece of cake. So now that the box is all prepped up for the new box side, we're gonna take and just drill a bunch of holes for plug welds, where we'll plug weld through to the old flanges, just like it was from the factory. So, along the front, along this top rail, down this back lip, and then around this wheel lip as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drill some holes. Unfortunately, my hole puncher, my pneumatic hole puncher I usually use, has died. It doesn't work anymore. So I'm resorting to the old-fashioned drilling holes again. So these box sides, they take a little bit of finagling to get them in place. You want to get them around the back first, around that, because it does wrap right around back there, and then we pull it around the front. Yeah, they can be a little bit of a fight for sure sometimes. So there we go. That one gave up a little better fight than some of them do. Actually, it was a little snug on there, but that's the way they're supposed to fit. So as you can see, we're up against all these flanges. So now I'm just going to go around with some clamps, clamp everything tight, and go around and plug weld everything. And then this side is just about done. So there's one bedside welded in place. So I've just quickly gone around and kind of cleaned up the welds a bit. So you can see it's pretty straightforward, just re-welding around the perimeter of the panel. A few welds up around that new wheelhouse, so that's all the new piece in there. So up to that point, if you have a welder, if you have the basic tools and a place to do it, You know, it's not, they're not terribly tough to do, so this is something a guy can tackle at home, I think. As long as you have, you know, a little bit of expertise with the tools, but... So yeah, so I'm gonna spin this around, I'm gonna repeat that process on the other side, and then when I'm ready, I'll bring you guys back and take you through the prep and paint process on this. Little end of the day check-in for you guys. Driver side bed panel is now welded on. So, that's both panels welded on. Something I was going to point out earlier, these panels, the OEM ones as well, they come with this little brace in here. That's just to stop this getting damaged. So you just need to zip this out. But you find that out when you try and put a tail light in there and that doesn't fit. So that's where we're at. Both bedsides on. I have fit the tailgate, so that's something I should have pointed out too. You always just want to be sure that nothing moves. Typically you're pretty safe with these because this is the structure piece that you're welding to. The bed skin itself, it's as long as you're putting it in place where it's supposed to be, your tailgate should, you know, 9 out of 10 times it'll fit properly. So anyway, that's where we're at. I will bring you guys back when we're ready to prep this up for paint. Hey everyone, well, it's been a couple of days. Gonna get back on the pickup box here. So I figured I'd take you guys just quickly over what's involved in prepping this E-coat. So this is an electrocoat, basically just like it's like a transportation primer is what this black stuff is. You cannot paint on it. You can put a urethane sealer on it and then put your paint on, and that's fine, and that's what we're going to do. But if you put paint directly on this stuff, it will fall off eventually. So what we're going to do first, I'm just going to go around all the welds where I've ground them off, basically like you see on this side, just with probably some 100 grit on the sander, and feather everything back there. And then the panel itself will get all sanded with just a 320 grit on the machine, so you don't have to finish real fine because we are putting a coat of urethane sealer on it. So I'm going to get to that. I just finished painting the roof on the truck, so I think I mentioned earlier in the video there that customer's just breaking this one up a little bit. Just do the box now, and we're going to do the rest of the cab later. Well, we had some pretty bad rust along the front of the windshield, and it needed a windshield, so we thought, well, we'll get that done, get the roof painted, then we can get right in and clean up that trough properly. So yeah, early next week I'll be getting a windshield slapped back in this thing. So the roof is done, the box will be done, customer will bring me back the truck in the fall, and we're going to be doing rockers and cab corners, inner rockers, new fenders, probably a different set of doors because these ones are pretty bad. So if anyone's interested in that, let me know and I'll bring you back on that one when we get back to that truck, but it'll be a few months. So for now, I'm going to get sanding on the box. Well, I'm back. It's actually Saturday today, but I'm just trying to keep on top of my workload right now. So I've got some pieces in the paint booth ready to paint. So I have everything all prepped up. I've already washed it all down with wax and grease remover. I've got the tailgate hanging. I've got a Suburban tailgate hanging there as well. I'll be able to get away with painting that at the same time as this because it's almost the same color. So yeah, you can get away with that little bit of overspray that I might get. It's so darn close, it's not going to make a difference. So I'll show you guys how I do these. So now you could epoxy and urethane prime the panels and then sand them all over again. The way I do them, I'm going to go around any bare metal with some epoxy primer, let that set up for 10 minutes or so, and then everything will get a coat of urethane sealer. And then that urethane sealer will set up for 10 minutes, and then I can start to paint. From there it'll be getting, probably 3 coats of base coat and 2 coats of clear coat. And that's all there is to it. So I'm gonna go start getting some stuff ready, and then yeah, maybe I'll try setting up the camera and kind of show you a little bit of the paint stuff. But I've done those videos before, so if you're interested in all the actual steps involved in the painting process, I think I have some more detailed videos on that on the channel, so you can look for them. But yeah, I'm gonna go get suited up, mix some primer, and I'll see you in a minute. Here's a little trick I do mixing the urethane sealer. Now, the sealer is quite a light gray. In this case, for painting a dark gray, I'm going to add some urethane base coat. Now, obviously not everyone has a mixing system, but just some bold black base coat would work just as well. So now we've got the sealer very close to the color we're putting on, so it's going to make it easier to achieve coverage with the paint. I'm back again. I actually just stopped for lunch, so I figured I'd bring you guys in for a look so you can kind of see how everything looks with the urethane sealer on. It was basically just a thinned down high build primer. So everything's got a coat of sealer. I always like to do these, the fuel cap. I'll just put a bolt in there to hold it open a little bit, so I can spray the inside and the outside all at once, rather than having the fuel cap hanging somewhere and painting it. I just find this works better. Then you definitely have a uniform color and finish over it, just how I always do them. So that's how it looks with a coat of sealer. So I'm going to go mix up some paint, and we'll start getting the base coat on here. So it's been about 45 minutes since I finished spraying. So I brought you guys along for a little bit of it just to kind of show you what's involved. So here's our finished product. So like I explained before, so some epoxy primer over the bare metal, a coat of urethane sealer over everything. That's 3 coats of base coat, so a urethane base coat, and then 2 coats of a urethane clear coat. So everything seems to look pretty good. Don't see any issues. So here's what I was saying with that Suburban tailgate. It's a little darker, but it's so darn close. I just got all my paint on the Dodge parts, and then just put my final coat of the darker gray on this, and it's worked out to be able to paint them all at one time. So it's Saturday now, so I'll leave this until Monday, and then I'll get her assembled, get her back on the truck, and it'll be just about ready for the customer. So I'll bring you guys back for that once we're finishing it up. So here she is, guys, all ready for the customer. Put back together, just had a quick wash. Like I said earlier in the video, the truck is coming back for the rest of the rust repair, so we're going to be doing everything else on it. But at this point, it is ready to go, other than the tailgate handle, which I didn't realize was broken. I've got one coming for tomorrow, and then it'll be good for the customer to pick up. So there you are. So like I always say in these videos, if you have a little bit of knowledge, a few basic tools, this is something you could tackle at home. Even if you're able to get the panels on and find someone that can do the paint work for you, that might save you some money. Now, at the end of the day, these aftermarket panels are great quality. There's nothing wrong with them. They fit really well. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with using OEM parts as well. But if you're trying to save a few bucks, you know, this is, even doing it yourself, this is still quite expensive with all the parts we put into this box, the bedsides, the wheelhouses, new tailgate. I think it's probably approaching $5 in parts. That's Canadian, keep in mind, for you guys in the States. Now, if you were to do the same job using all OEM parts, you're probably adding about $2,000 to that. So, then of course, if you're paying someone to do all this work, there's a lot of labor as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, these trucks are, you know, these days, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 to replace. So it makes a lot of sense to keep them alive, even though it is, it's a fair chunk of change, but well worth it in the end. You know, are these aftermarket parts as good a quality? Are they going to last as long as the OEM? Well, you think about how these trucks lasted when they were new. I mean, a lot of these things were rotting through in 3-4 years. So they can't be any worse, that's for damn sure. So, as always, guys, thanks so much for watching the video. I hope it helps somebody out along the way. Any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm always available on the social media or through the YouTube or whatever. I don't mind at all answering questions if I can help someone out with the projects. So, okay, guys, thanks for watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe if you can. See you on the next video.